Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
This describes Max Verstappen's race in Bahrain in the 4th round of the Formula 1 Championship very well. Nothing went right, and after the race, Max Verstappen seemed relaxed about it, but his manager went off on one. The shit really has hit the fan at Red Bull. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Expectations were low for the Bahrain weekend already, because Verstappen knew this track would show their weakness when it came to tyre wear and balance issues. But f*** me, we didn't expect it to be this bad. Max Verstappen didn't get to do FP1 because it's mandatory to let junior drivers test the current F1 cars. So it was Iwasa who did FP1. It was scorching hot out there anyway, so there wasn't much data to be gathered. In FP2, nothing really seemed to work properly. They had oversteer, understeer and balance issues and were overall slow. Now, with the RB21 this season, this didn't come as a surprise, as they usually start weekends this way. The data of the Friday sessions gets used by sim driver Rudy van Buren to sort out all the issues. This helped Max win in Japan a week earlier. On Saturday it was clear that the issues were still there after they had tried everything. They turned the car upside down, so to speak. They still had no grip and a new issue had showed up. The brakes weren't behaving like they should. Verstappen said it was like braking against the wall. Simply lovely, huh? In quali things were tense as well. Q1 he didn't set a first lap, or it got deleted, I don't remember, and this made the second run at the last minute very important. He made it through and so did Yuki Tsunoda. Then in Q2 it was hoping it would go a little easier. He did his first run on used softs. He was on a good lap but was called into the pits to swap the fresh soft tires. So another quali session without a banker lap. He made it through in P9 and Yuki in P10. That was the first race where 2 Red Bull drivers made it into Q3. So the final runs in Q3 were riddled with issues and the car was not behaving. But Verstappen finished P7. Lando Norris was only 1 position in front of him, so that looked okay. In interviews, Verstappen already tempered expectations and went as far as to say he was competing in the F1 championship, but not for the championship. I, as a naive fanboy, was still hoping for the best, as you do. Maybe a few issues could be fixed during the race with settings. I mean, this has happened before. Little did we know it would only get worse from then on. Max Verstappen immediately started the doomed race with a bad start. Maybe that was karma for snitching on Lando Norris, who had rolled out of his start grid box. In any case, he lost the position against Carlos Sainz, who went on to play bumper cars all race long before he DNF'd. The first stint was pretty poor, and they pitted him fairly early. This pit stop was messed up by a red light not going to green, so he had traffic in front of him, which takes time. And he was on hard tires, which totally did not work for him. As the undercut is pretty powerful in Bahrain, they called him in early again, and if he had a good pit stop, he'd be a lot more forward. With this pit stop, the right front wheel didn't come off, and it was a 6-second pit stop. That's all he needed. Max kept trotting on in P20, and he didn't even freak out like he used to do in the past. I don't know if that's because he's given up already, or he's getting wiser. I'm afraid it's the first. After a few more laps, there was a safety car to clear up bits from Sainz's car. Verstappen didn't pit, so he gained a few positions that way. It was the only thing that worked in his favour, perhaps. He just kept pushing and pushing to get closer to Pierre Gasly, who was really quick in his Alpine. Still, Max managed, with all his battery power deployed and his skill, to get past the Frenchman in the last lap. A P6 finish in an absolute shitbox of a car. In a race where everything went wrong. In the interviews in the pen, Verstappen kept a cool head and explained everything. When asked about the big meeting that Red Bull was going to have after this race, he said that he doesn't feel like talking. He's tired of talking. I can see why. They talked so much at Red Bull in the past weeks, And this was the result. Max Verstappen did his talking on track despite all the mishaps. His manager did more than talk to Helmut Marko in the garage. Oh dear. So it was good old Ted Kravitz who told the Mirror about a confrontation he had seen with his own eyes in the Red Bull garage after the race. Kravitz was quoted in the article saying, "At the end of the race, I was waiting around here for some team principles, and Raymond Vermeulen, Max's manager, came into the Red Bull garage and gave Helmut Marko what can only be described as a piece of his mind." He was remonstrating with Helmut Marko, who was just standing there, taking it. And then Raymond stormed off to the back of the garage, sort of taking his pass off as he went. Clearly, they are not happy. I don't know if you know this, but Raymond Vermeulen is Max Verstappen's manager for all legal things, the business side of Max's career. Jos Verstappen, Max's father, is there for racing support, although that role is not necessary anymore. Max can race on his own now. Those three are a unit and brought Max where he is now. So for Vermeulen to have a go at Helmut Marko, who is seen as an ally to the Verstappen camp, is quite telling. Is this the start of an exit from Red Bull for Verstappen? And then Helmut Marko was quoted speaking for Sky Sports Germany too. He said he had great concerns about whether Max Verstappen could be kept at Red Bull with how things are going now. He said they needed improvements, and not in points, but on the stopwatch. The achievements of the team right now won't see Max becoming champion. The worries about Verstappen's future are great, so they need to get to a situation where he can win races on merit and not by coincidence when the weather plays a big part. He said they needed a stable base to work from. FYI, Marko didn't mean that it was coincidence that Verstappen won in Brazil or Japan, just that he wants him to compete without those circumstances helping him. So yeah, quite a bit to take in here, although it is something I expected, unfortunately. Well, a day later, Vermeulen came out with a statement that they have trust in the upgrades Red Bull will bring. Christian Horner talked about a correlation issue again with their old wind tunnel, and things seem to have cooled down again. I'm personally not so confident that Red Bull will get things in order again this season. We've been hearing the same things from Horner for 2 years now. With Red Bull losing so many key members of staff after the internal struggles, it doesn't come as a surprise that things have taken a step back. Pit stops were Jonathan Wheatley's department, and nobody will admit it's because he left that the pit stops have been poor for a while now. It's pretty obvious. The same goes for car issues. Newey has left and the cars haven't been the same since. And solutions don't seem to be found either. I know Newey uses a drawing board rather than simulations, and perhaps that correlated better with what drivers experience on track. Red Bull would be a midfield team if it wasn't for Verstappen pulling big performances. And somehow, I don't think they can pull it off quickly enough for Verstappen to stay. I sense there's something brewing. Max was very calm and collected and let his manager do the talking in a way to take pressure off Max. I very much feel that Red Bull and Verstappen are working towards a farewell championship to say goodbye on a high note, and both parties can continue their paths even if Max says he's not thinking about leaving. I made a video about this here explaining why Red Bull would be okay with Max Verstappen leaving. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.